Avast ye land lovers, and welcome to another weekly edition of Everything Vaguely Paranormal. I be your captain on this journey, and this be my scurvy crew, Blackjack Blake and the sea witch, Shelley Pruitt. How ye be?
Jesus.
I've been getting the fuck off this
fucking Christ. Here I go trying to make a Pirates reference with my damn patch eye over
I
here.
see your patch.
Ryan just ruined the whole fucking episode for us.
I made it way better. I made it fun.
How long did you rehearse that, my friend?
He's been working on that all afternoon.
That was off the dome, brother.
Oh, we're so sorry. We apologize for Ryan's antics.
No, you don't. I made it better.
Blackjack Blake, though?
Yeah, I don't know. Just something quick. I don't know.
Sea Witch is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, that's great.
I'll show you a sea witch.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we're doing good, man. How are you doing?
I am fantastic. And guys, do y'all know much about Blackbeard? That is our topic tonight. Is Blackbeard? Do you know much about him before we get into him?
You don't say. We're doing Blackbeard. I could never have guessed from that.
I mean, we could have been doing we could have been doing Calico Jack. We could have been doing any pirate with that entrance, but Blackbeard specifically.
The notorious Edward Teach.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and do y'all have much knowledge of Blackbeard? Because I grew up in North Carolina, and in North Carolina, like, you learn a whole lot about Blackbeard because that's where was his domain: North Carolina, South Carolina, and the Caribbean.
And the Outer Banks, where there are more shipwrecks than dang near any other coast in the Americas, right?
I can tell you, in good old East Texas, there is not like a lore and legend for Blackbeard happening here.
You're a landlubber. Got it.
Yeah, sure. And apparently a blackjack or something. I don't know.
Right, and I guess Texas, like Jean Lafitte, is more like the Texas pirate, like people learn about.
Yeah, more Louisiana, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, he was in Galveston. I think he had a mansion in Galveston, didn't he, or something? I don't remember, something like that.
Yeah,
I think he had a home there.
I think he did. Yeah, I believe you're correct. And don't get me lying.
So, but when we were growing up, we learned in history class a lot about Blackbeard, and Blackbeard is pretty much the most notorious pirate, because when you think about pirates, Blackbeard's probably the first one that comes to mind. So,
I mean, for me, it's Jack Sparrow, but
because of Pirates of the Caribbean. Hey, he even made an appearance in Pirates of the Caribbean.
He did.
Fucking Jesus, Shelley.
Long John Silver.
Continue your fucking story, Ryan. We're never gonna make it through. Go for it.
All right. So, when you think about pirates, like, Blackbeard tends to be, other than Captain Jack Sparrow or Long John Silver, Blackbeard tends to be the pirate that you think about. And
off the rails already.
So tonight we're going to kind of jump into Blackbeard and tell a story, and you may find out some interesting things you might not have known about Blackbeard. He may have been more bluster than he was actual action. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So when you ask someone to think of a pirate, what comes to mind? Most likely peg legs, buried treasure, and swashbuckling on the seven seas. But when you ask someone to think of a specific pirate, they most likely imagine Blackbeard. A fearsome sea dog that struck fear into the hearts of his enemies, standing head and shoulders above his contemporaries and emerging from a cloud of thick black smoke. He looked like Satan incarnate. He took what he wanted and became a legend that still captivates today. But he wasn't always the world's most legendary pirate. His story is one of debauchery, violence, and betrayal. But to get there, we have to start across the globe. Over in jolly old England.
Looks like Shelley's new boyfriend.
I'm like, hey.
I mean, especially with this picture, with the little heavier set, long hair, kind of scraggly looking. I mean,
you say you put a little salt in that pepper beard, Shelley's all over it.
I'm all over it.
So, like I said, we have to start. So we got to start all the way over in England if we're to get the story started off right.
Shelley wants a cracker.
Oh my God, would you let him start?
Go ahead.
So now much isn't known about Blackbeard's early life, but based on what historians can piece together, he was born Edward Teach in the seafaring city of Bristol in England, sometime in about 1687. Bristol was the second largest city in England and a massive port town that had been made incredibly rich by the slave trade. Many of seafaring vessels came in and out of town, packed with goods and people traveling to and from the New World. And a young Edward Teach often watched these ships crest over the horizon, and daydreamed of the freedom and opportunity the open sea provided. He would often read stories about sailors traveling the world and fighting on the high seas, and the Royal Navy raiding enemy ships, taking the combatants who took the name of the crown in English. Sorry. Taking the combatants' look in the name of the crown and English sovereignty. These stories and intense adventures were too great. So when the Queen Anne's War with Spain and France against England broke out, he answered the call of the sea and became a sailor working for privateers. Now, privateering was essentially a legal form of piracy. Captains and crew of privateering ships would act in unofficial capacities for foreign powers, who would give them what were called letters of marque, which were official documents that sanctioned their otherwise illegal activity. As long as they attacked and disrupted the supply lines of foreign powers, it was okay. It was a lucrative job for a young man at the time, and young Blackbeard seized on it. Much like his early life, very little is known about his privateering days. It is not known when exactly he left England, but when he surfaced in Jamaica, he carried quite a reputation for his bravery. It was said that he performed several daring acts in service of privateers he had worked for, making him well known amongst sailors and privateers alike, particularly in the Caribbean. But just like as his reputation as a desirable hand was growing, the Queen Anne's War ended, and privateer work dried up completely, making it hard for former sailors to find work. And since fighting, looting, and sailing were all these men knew, they decided to put their skill set to good use and turn to a life of piracy. Blackbeard was one of these young men. So the out-of-work young man set sail from Jamaica to the known pirate stronghold of New Providence, a known den of iniquity where pirates and smugglers congregated, where in 1716 he met the most feared pirate in the Caribbean, Captain Benjamin Hornigold. Hornigold liked the young Edward Teach. He saw something in him that he could cultivate. So Blackbeard joined his crew. And it was under his tutelage that Edward Teach would learn all he knew about piracy. Are you laughing at Hornigold?
Hornigold and his tutelage.
Now, Hornigold set sail from the Bahamas with Teach in tow, robbing and pillaging ship after ship. And it didn't take long for Teach to impress Hornigold and become his favorite. Hornigold recognized that he had a great fighter on his hands, with a keen eye for shooting and a great amount of leadership potential. So Hornigold made Teach his protege, and gave Blackbeard his very own sloop to captain, and equipped it with 6 guns and a 70-man crew so he could sail along with Hornigold and raid other ships.
What kind of name is Hornigold? I'm sorry.
That's just his last name, Captain Benjamin Hornigold.
Where the fuck does this come from? Never mind. I'd like to do the ancestry on that last name and figure out what the hell it...
In some stories, his last name, and I shit you not, is Horny Good.
Listen, here's the thing. Okay, genealogist or your hobbyist genealogist for like 17 years now. I've done a lot of research on like surnames and all that stuff. Taking mine back, like we used to be the Blaylock, or it was the Blaylocks. So it was one of the maiden names of my family, which used to be Blacklock. The true meaning of that is black hair, essentially.
Right.
So it makes you wonder with the last name of Hornigold.
I don't know, man. Maybe Gold got him really excited.
What the fuck he had to be doing, or his family had to be doing, to get such a wonderful last name?
I mean, I don't know, man. I say, but with his new sloop at his command, Blackbeard followed Hornigold and sailed up to the American colonies. The two sailed as far north as Delaware, and along the way they attacked several ships, relieving them of their bountiful cargo. But as late fall set in, the weather turned cold, and the pirate crews turned south, headed for warmer waters and New Providence. But as they reached the Caribbean on November the 28th, 1716, they spotted a French slaving vessel named the Concorde. The pirates knew it was full of plunder, and ripe for the taking. So Hornigold and Teach raised their black flags and approached the Concorde. Before the French captain could even react, the 2 pirate ships sailed up on either side and fired broadsides, killing over half of the Concorde's crew.
Damn.
Realizing he had no other options, and the French captain surrendered. and the pirates boarded the ship. The pirates stripped the Concorde of all of its valuables, but as Blackbeard watched the ship, he realized that he really liked it and wanted to keep it for himself. So he asked Hornigold if he could have it. Hornigold was very proud of his apprentice. He had proved himself time after time. So Hornigold obliged and let Blackbeard have the ship.
Was he going by Blackbeard at this time already, or had he actually acquired that name yet?
Some stories say he may have been going by Blackbeard at this point because he was already captaining a ship, but most historians agree that he adopts the moniker here in just a minute.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but Hornigold had an ulterior motive in letting Blackbeard keep such a grand ship. Hornigold planned to retire and become a planter on New Providence. Because the King of England, King George I, had issued an edict that pardoned all English pirates as long as they swore to abandon their ways and turn themselves in before September the 5th, 1717. Hornigold had amassed a considerable amount of wealth, and his new protege could handle himself. So shortly after the Concorde's capture, Hornigold told Blackbeard about his retirement plan. The two pirates shook hands, and Hornigold sailed back to New Providence to turn himself in to the royal governor, and left Blackbeard to pursue the pirate life. Now, Blackbeard was on his own. He set about converting the Concorde into a pirate ship for his liking. He renamed his vessel the Queen Anne's Revenge, and mounted it with 40 cannons, and knew she was well built and sturdy, so he decided to test her mettle in battle. And he sailed south looking for a fight. It wasn't long until the lookout in the crow's nest spotted exactly what Blackbeard had been looking for. Just off the coast of St. Vincent, the pirate and his crew happened upon a large merchant ship named the Great Allen. It was well armed and full to bursting with valuables. So Blackbeard engaged his newly designed ship, ready to trade blows and relieve the Allen of its cargo. The Great Allen saw the pirate ship with its black flag hoisted high. They knew they were in for a fight. And the two ships fought for quite some time. But the Queen Anne's Revenge was too much for the Great Allen to handle, and the captain of the ship, Christopher Taylor, surrendered, and Blackbeard claimed his prize. He ordered Taylor to move the ship closer to St. Vincent's shore, and to get the lifeboats and land his crew on the beach. The defeated Taylor did as he was told. All the while, the pirates raided his ship, taking everything that wasn't tied down. After they took what they wanted, they met Captain Taylor on shore and put him in chains. They whipped him and humiliated him for 24 hours, trying to get information out of him about additional treasure that could have been on board. But once they were satisfied that they had everything, Blackbeard ordered his crew to set fire to the Great Allen and sink it into the depths of the ocean, cementing his...
Sorry, go ahead.
I said cementing his legacy as someone not to be trifled with. What were you going to say, Blake?
I was going to say that sounds like Shelley's Last Saturday. Chained up and whipped. Is this all the treasure, you bitch? Is this all the treasure?
Did they set your boat on fire too?
She said, oh, harder. I mean, no, yes, I'm done.
Told you that in confidence, Blake.
Sorry, my bad.
If Blackbeard had learned anything from his interaction with the Great Allen or his time with Captain Hornigold, it was that he could get what he wanted through intimidation. He realized if he cultivated an image that struck... yeah, you know. He realized if he cultivated an image that struck fear into the hearts of his fellow men, it would make his job much easier and protect him on the high seas. So Blackbeard did just that. He grew the biggest coal-black beard that he could possibly muster and braided it into pigtails. He then tied off the various ends with various colored ribbons. He was tall and muscular, standing about head and shoulders above most men. So he adorned his massive frame with all black clothing that he accented with a large silk or velvet overcoat and a large black hat. He wore a bandolier with 2 to 3 guns holstered along the strap and had a large belt around his waist, filled with daggers and an oversized giant cutlass. And to finish it off, he kept several fuses underneath his hat and in his beard that he would light and give himself the illusion of producing his own smoke, emerging from the haze like the devil himself. Word soon spread that if you encountered Blackbeard, you would be encountering no mere man. You would be in the presence of a being from the depths of hell.
Okay, wait. Can we like adopt a few of those? Because I like that.
Right?
I'm gonna start
carrying. Like to appear in a puff of smoke.
I was gonna say, like, can we just have like Shelly just start smoking out of nowhere and just be like, "See, Satan's mistress, we told you." Like,
holy water around here somewhere. Crap.
Now give me what I want. She can get it. So, all right. So Blackbeard put this new terrifying image to the test when he captured his next ship on December the 5th, 1717. He and his crew spotted a merchant ship called the Margaret off the coast of Crab Island. Yes, it really was called Crab Island. So Blackbeard sailed his ship alongside the vessel and used his speaking horn, which essentially really was just a giant megaphone.
I was more worried about the name of the fucking ship, not the name of the island. Ryan's like, yeah, it's really called the Crab Island. And I'm like, why the fuck is the ship called the Margaret?
But he used his speaking horn, which is, like I said, was like a giant like megaphone, essentially, to order the captain aboard to surrender his ship and cargo. The captain was so scared of the imposing pirate, he surrendered immediately and gave Blackbeard all of his guns and loot without even putting up a fight or firing a single shot.
Give me your silver. Give me your
silver. Wait, can you imagine how intimidating that would be? Hey, you. You. Give me your gold.
And then you look up and see a smoking, a smoking dude, and you're like, okay, here you go.
I don't need any of this like, shit. Bring it on or something? Oh, it's already been brought.
Boo.
Come on, you ain't never seen the parody movie that they did for that?
Yeah,
they were like, you better bring it. Yeah, not another teen movie. You better bring it. Oh, it's already been rotten. That's what I see happening with this duel of these pirates right now.
Yeah, he pulls it up. UGLY. You ain't got no alibi.
This is why we don't teach history classes, guys.
Now, Blackbeard had secured a massive store, and because the captain of the Margaret had been so kind as to surrender, Blackbeard spared his life and absorbed 2 of his crew into his pirate faction and set the captain and the rest of the crew free, sending them and their defenseless ship on its way. With such a big score, Blackbeard decided to take a load off for a little bit and lay low for a little while. So he sailed to Bath, North Carolina to rest and sell some of the loot. Some documents even suggest that he also took advantage of the king's pardon. However, it didn't last long, because by March 1718, Blackbeard and crew were back sailing the high seas. On the way to the Bay of Honduras, Blackbeard's lookout spotted a small pirate sloop carrying about 10 guns. As they approached the small ship, they saw it was emblazoned as, quote, the Revenge, and it was captained by a pirate of a different sort, the aptly named gentleman pirate Stede Bonnet. Now, Stede was a rich dandy and had no business captaining a pirate ship. Stede was born to rich sugar planters in Barbados, who had died when he was young and left him a large and considerable fortune. Stede grew older and took over the family business and became a well-known and well-liked planter in his own right on the island. But after the death of his first child, he became depressed and thought a life of piracy and adventure was just what he needed to pull himself out of his funk. So he used his sugar money and bought himself a sloop, outfitted it with 10 guns, and hired a group of 70 men to be his crew.
So this dandy pirate used his sugar money?
Yes, he did. He used his sugar money.
What does a dandy pirate look like?
Oh, I'll tell you in just a sec. Because he is not. Once people see him, they're like, this dude. There's no way this dude is a pirate. Like, what the fuck is going on here?
How'd you get rich? Sugar. I bet you did, boy.
I used my sugar money. So.
I mean, I see nothing wrong with it.
Oh, neither do I.
So he hired a group of 70 men to be his crew and left his sugar plantation and wife behind in the middle of the night on August the 26th, 1717, without so much as a goodbye.
This sounds like the worst midlife crisis ever.
Pretty much. He is like the poster boy for a midlife crisis, Stede Bonnet.
It's like, no, I got my sugar money, and I don't know. Somebody said, why did I just picture Richard Simmons?
Oh my God, that's kind of who I was thinking.
Now that's in my head. That's in my head now.
Sweatband on underneath
Yeah,
the hat, going,
yeah.
Oh, it's so hot.
I bought mine with my sugar money. So when Blackbeard,
good for him. Good for him. I support it.
So when Blackbeard saw the British dandy, he laughed loudly to his crew. The poser pirate was clean-shaven, round, and wore a big, bright waistcoat. Blackbeard knew he had found a sucker, completely ripe for the picking. So he stifled his laughter and walked to the side of the ship to greet the gentleman pirate. Stede grabbed his speaking horn and hollered up to Blackbeard, "Who do I have the pleasure of speaking to?" Blackbeard responded, "A brother of the coast, come topside, Captain." So Stede Bonnet boarded the Queen Anne's Revenge to visit with Blackbeard. The two captains went into the captain's quarters to talk. They could not have been more...
What they say, yeah. I need the full dialogue, Ryan.
Where'd you get your ship? I bought it with me sugar money. Would you like some of my sugar money?
Oh, man. God. This is why nobody takes us seriously anymore.
I think I killed Shelly.
I think you did too. She'll come back.
So the two captains went into the captain's quarters to talk. They could not have been more different. But they seemed to get along really well, and Blackbeard went with Bonnet to check out his sloop, the Revenge. And he liked what he saw. So he asked Bonnet if he and his crew would like to sail with him. And the fanboying faux pirate said, "Yes."
Just got my composure back.
And the Revenge set sail with the Queen Anne's Revenge. But after a few days of sailing around with Bonnet, Blackbeard recognized what Bonnet's crew had known for a long time. Stede Bonnet knew absolutely nothing about what he was doing. So with the support of Stede's crew, Blackbeard took over command of the Revenge and put his second-in-command, Lieutenant Richards, at the helm. As for the matter of poor old Stede, Blackbeard convinced Stede that being a captain was too much for him. He said, "You should live easy and not be obliged to do the day-to-day duty." So Stede relinquished day-to-day control and kept the title of captain in name only. And he let Richards pilot the Revenge. So ultimately, he was the end-all, be-all, but everybody else took care of everything else while he was just kind of playing pirate on the deck with everybody else.
Now, see, I could get on board with it. I'm going to take my Splenda money and I'm gonna go become a pirate. That is the life for me. I'll just be a fucking dandy pirate. I don't care. I'll wear a bright colored waistcoat. I can pull it off. Lost about 20 pounds. It'll be all right.
So shortly thereafter, the pirates decided to drop anchor on Turniff Island. They needed fresh water and a few days on shore to stretch their legs.
We're never going to get to the end of this fucking episode. Oh, shit. Too much.
And they probably needed to drop anchor a few times, too.
Too much sexual innuendos here. Anyways, go ahead, Ryan.
But as they were resting, a lookout spotted a sloop headed their way. So the Queen Anne's Revenge and the Revenge sailed out to meet the incoming ship and suss out who the crew was aboard. The captain of the incoming ship knew this was a fight he was not going to win. So he struck his sails as the Queen Anne's Revenge sailed alongside and threw down a rope ladder. Blackbeard ordered the captain to come aboard his ship and speak to him face to face. The captain did as he was told and held an audience with the world's most well-known pirate. Turns out the captain's name was David Harriet, and his ship was called the Adventure. He too was coming to shore to get fresh water and didn't mean to run afoul of the pirates. Blackbeard understood, but his wheels began turning. Having Captain Harriet at a disadvantage, he asked the captain if Harriet and the Adventure crew wanted to join his pirate gang. Harriet accepted, and Blackbeard put his first mate Israel Hands in charge of the new acquisition. And to celebrate this new business venture, all the pirates returned to the island and partied for a week straight, getting wasted on the finest rum. After the week of partying, it was time to hit the seas in search of more loot. Because after all, that's what you do when you're a pirate. You got to find some loot. So on April the 9th...
Booty.
I was about to say booty. After you've been partying for a week, you need some booty, my friend.
And Hands was in charge of Harriet,
Hands was,
right?
yeah.
Yes, Hands was in charge of the adventure.
Who's Harriet?
Yeah. Harriet was the former captain of the adventure, so now Hands is in charge of his sloop.
Yeah, getting some loot.
Yar, time to grab some booty.
Looting some booty.
So on April the 9th, 1718, Blackbeard's fleet sailed towards Honduras. And when they arrived in the bay, they spotted a Boston-based merchant ship called the Protestant Caesar. Never giving up the opportunity to make more money, Blackbeard ordered the capture of the ship. So they raised their black flags and engaged the Protestant Caesar. Blackbeard couldn't resist a little theatrics, though. So he fired a cannon just to scare the crew of the Caesar, and his plan worked. The captain and crew were so scared they hopped in their lifeboats and rowed ashore, completely abandoning the ship in the harbor. While Blackbeard gladly commandeered and looted the ship and set it on fire Blackbeard captured the ship, commandeered it, and looted it and set it on fire. And they got a little bit of confidence after that, and they felt they were so good at their craft, absolutely nothing could stop them. So they turned their eyes northward towards the American colonies. They were going to lay siege to Charleston, South Carolina. Now, Charleston was a jewel in the crown of England for its American colonies. Everything from gold to rice passed through its harbor. It was a virtual treasure trove, but as valuable to the crown as it was, Charleston was a sitting duck. Out of all of Britain's major colonial cities, Charleston was the most poorly defended. And if Charleston ever had an issue, it would take a while for them to receive aid from England or another colony. Blackbeard knew this and took full advantage of it, exploiting the city's weakness. When he and his fleet arrived in Charleston Harbor in May of 1718, for the next week, his ships waited just outside of the harbor and captured ships full of goods and passengers. But one of these ships proved to be quite lucrative. That ship was the Crowley, and it was carrying several of the city's most prominent citizens over to England. Blackbeard captured the ship and took the occupants hostage. He had the hostages brought aboard the Queen Anne's Revenge as he examined the Crowley's manifest, where he discovered that he had quite the catch. He had captured Samuel Wragg, a man of intense wealth and great political stature. Blackbeard was in quite a fortuitous position. He could use Wragg and the other passengers as bargaining chips. So he ordered his hostages imprisoned below deck, but requested the company of Wragg and other prominent passengers. Blackbeard apologized to them for the rough treatment and explained to Wragg that it was necessary so that he and his crew could convene and figure out what they needed. Upon much debate, it was determined that the crew wanted a chest of medicine, and the colonial governor was going to give it to them. Two of his officers were going to take the list of goods into town, and if the governor did not meet their demands, he would cut off the hostages' heads and send them to the governor directly. He would also burn every ship he had captured at the port's entrance, sending a terrifying message to the citizens of Charleston. Mr. Wragg understood the brevity of the situation, so he suggested one of the hostages go ashore with the pirates and inform the governor just how dire the situation was. Blackbeard agreed and selected a Mr. Marks to go ashore. But before he left, Blackbeard informed him that he only had 2 days to talk to the governor and come back with the provisions. And if any harm should come to the pirates, he would personally burn every ship in the harbor and, quote, beat the town about their ears. Mr. Marks understood and left with the two pirates for the mainland.
This is exactly why Ryan wanted to do Blackbeard, so he could just do pirate impressions all night long. All night long.
Yar! So the hostages waited with bated breath for the return of Mr. Marks and the pirate ambassadors. But after 2 days, there was no sign of them. Blackbeard thought he had been bamboozled and became furious. So he immediately sent for Wragg. and Rag came to talk to the captain, and Blackbeard yelled at Rag that he was not to be trifled with. And it was obvious to him that Mr. Marks had betrayed his goodwill. So he told Rag to prepare his fellow hostages for death, because he would not be made a fool of. But Rag pleaded with Blackbeard, reminding him that he was a reasonable man. Blackbeard reacted well to the begging and flattery and calmed down. He prided himself on being reasonable. So he granted his hostages one more day of reprieve, but that was it. If he didn't see Mr. Marks the next day, the whole lot of them were going to die. But the next day, Blackbeard saw a boat rowing towards his ship. Surely it was Mr. Marks with his 2 crew members, but to Blackbeard's great surprise, it was not. It was a messenger from Marks that had come to tell Blackbeard why he was taking so long. Apparently, Marks and the 2 pirates had gotten caught in a storm, and their boat had capsized as they were on their way into the harbor. And they went overboard, but a fishing boat saved them the next day and took them into Charleston. So the trip was taking a bit longer than expected. Blackbeard didn't like it, but he was a man of the sea and knew these things could happen. So he said the envoy had 2 more days to return. But when they didn't, Blackbeard flew into a rage. He had waited long enough and had been more than gracious with his time. He would no longer stand for this treachery. The governor of South Carolina and Charleston herself would pay for not taking him seriously. So Blackbeard hoisted his black flag and sailed right into the harbor, with his cannons aimed right at the coastal town. The city went into a frenzy. They knew the dreaded scourge of the sea was coming and braced themselves for attack. But before a single cannon blast rang out, a rowboat containing Mr. Marks and the 2 pirates came out to meet Blackbeard. On board the rowboat was the medicine chest that Blackbeard had wanted, and Mr. Marks brought it aboard and explained to Blackbeard what had taken so long. He said the governor of South Carolina had in fact complied with his request, and the chest had been gathered rather quickly. But Mr. Marks ran into a snag before returning. His 2 pirate compatriots had gone missing. They had found drinking buddies in town and had disappeared deep into the city. They searched high and low for these 2 pirates, and by the time they found them, they were absolutely tanked, and Blackbeard was already coming into the harbor. Blackbeard accepted the explanation, and he knew his crew and knew they never passed up a good time, so he let his hostages go, but not before taking everything of value on them, including their clothes, sending some of them back to the city naked.
See, we can empathize and sympathize with that, because that's what Ryan does at our investigations with me and Shelly. It's kind of like, where the hell are they? And then all of a sudden we're just off anyway, or we're tanked too. We could be tanked as well. I mean, you never
tanked
know.
in a room somewhere. I don't know where the hell
tanked
you are
in a room, no idea. And then Ryan's like, oh, okay, that
tracks.
That tracks.
But the fact that he just takes even their clothes and sends them back to shore naked is pretty damn funny to me, because I mean, he took everything of value from these people.
Is Captain Sweetlow still on board?
Yeah, he's still around. Like, okay. He's and we'll get to him a little bit later.
So he's still running.
Oh, he's still running with him. And it might be a pretty bad idea that Captain, Splenda's still running with him. But so the siege of Charleston had been a success. In total, they had robbed 8 ships of about $400,000 worth of treasure.
Damn.
Yeah, and that's in 1718.
I was about to say, yeah, that's wow.
And gotten all the medicine that they needed. Blackbeard had successfully brought the entire an entire royal city to its knees, and he didn't even have to fire a single shot to do it. This only lent credence to his legend. He was so brazen, and his reputation only spread like wildfire. All the colonies now knew his name, but so did the Royal Navy, and he was on their radar. They were sending several man-of-war to the colonies and the Caribbean to rid the area of pirates. And a man-of-war is like a giant British warship they're going to send over. And he has pinged their radar, and that's not a good thing, because the Royal Navy could really mess you up. And because of his blockade, Blackbeard was at the top of their list of targets. Now, Blackbeard had heard rumor of this, and he also heard the king had extended the deadline for the English pirates' pardon to September the 5th of 1718. So having accomplished a legendary act and being absolutely flush with loot, he decided enough was enough and decided to retire. He was going to sail back to Bath and surrender to the North Carolina governor, Charles Eden, so he could get his pardon and live off of his ill-gotten gains. But he had a problem. He still had his now notorious ship, and if he was going to skirt the Royal Navy and slip into North Carolina unnoticed to obtain his pardon, he was going to have to get rid of it. Plus, he had a good bit of crew that he had to get rid of as well. So he devised a plan that he told only his core crew members. He sailed into Beaufort Inlet and purposely ran his ship aground on a sandbar in an attempt to make it seem accidental. He ordered the Adventure, helmed by Israel Hands, who knew the plan, to try and pull the Queen Anne's Revenge off of the bar and back out to deeper waters. But the smaller vessel was no match, and it too ran aground, damaging both ships beyond repair. All that remained of the fleet was the Revenge, Stede Bonnet's boat.
Mm-hmm.
And Stede was still technically captain of the Revenge at this point. So Blackbeard boarded the Revenge and told Stede that what he was going to do. He said he was going to go to Governor Eden and receive his pardon. And he told Stede that he should do the same. And if he truly wanted to continue a pirate's life, he should take the pardon and ask for permission to sail down to St. Thomas and privateer for the crown against the Spaniards. And that sounded like a great idea to Stede because he just so badly wanted to be a pirate.
And Steve is Captain Sugar, right?
Yeah, Stede is Captain Sugar.
Right.
So he took Blackbeard's advice and took a small boat into Bath to get his pardon, which he received from Governor Eden, along with papers granting him passage to St. Thomas. And while Stede was off getting his pardon, Blackbeard put his plan into action. His urging of Bonnet to go to Bath was not at all altruistic. As soon as he left, Blackbeard's crew looted the Revenge of all of its treasure and drank all of the liquor on board. While the pirates were absolutely stone drunk, Blackbeard put the next phase of his plan into action. He grabbed about 40 of his most loyal men and loaded a small boat with all of the loot that they could gather, planning to leave the rest of his crew while they slept off their drunken stupors. But a few of the crew caught wind of his plan and confronted Blackbeard. But ultimately, the imposing captain's image won out. And he forced these men to give up their guns and money. He and his loyalists loaded the dissenters onto the boat and marooned them on a small island and sailed towards Bath.
Well, that sucks.
Yeah, he was just like, I'm getting rid of you, and you. Fuck you, you're cool.
But he didn't kill them. He just
marooned
them. So they had a shot.
He just
basically going, can you swim?
Right. Yeah, he just basically was like, you live here now.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like, have fun.
Yeah.
So a few days later, Stede returned to find his ship completely ransacked and his crew marooned. His blood was absolutely boiling. He actually thought that Blackbeard was his friend. But this whole time, he had been just a sucker. So he gathered his crew that was left. There was a little bit of crew kind of roving around. So he gathered his crew that was left and swore revenge on Blackbeard, looking for the scoundrel that had double-crossed him. But Blackbeard was too quick for Stede, and Stede had no provisions, so he had to give up the chase. He couldn't go after Blackbeard. And if he and his crew...
That was sugar money, right?
That was sugar money, yes.
Okay. Yeah, it's Captain Sugar right there.
Yeah, Captain Sugar money.
Sugar ran out. That's what happened. He couldn't keep up. Sugar ran out. He had to go.
And if he and his crew were to survive the trip to St. Thomas, he was going to have to return to piracy to get provisions, a decision that would prove to be fatal. Stede accosted 2 ships and forced them to, quote, trade with him for provisions at gunpoint.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
We're not glossing over that real quick.
No.
Just like, hey, and sticks a gun in your face, whatever. I would like to trade with you.
I will take your life.
That.
I will take your life for that barrel of rum behind you. I'm letting you live. See? Equal transaction.
Totally equal. Yeah. So Captain Splenda got some balls on him towards the end.
Oh yeah, he pretty much after Blackbeard pissed him off, he was like, right, you know what? I'm going to go whole hog into this.
All right. Come on.
And it was also, it was a means of survival because he had nothing. Like his ship did have provisions, but now he has nothing. If he's going to survive, he's got to have some stuff to get to where he's got to go.
And he didn't have any sugar money left.
No. I mean, he still got sugar money. Don't worry about that. But He just doesn't necessarily want to draw any unnecessary attention to himself, like pulling into a port somewhere to get any more provisions, and he's too far away. What they say?
Captain Sugar Britches is pissed now.
I know
what the comment says.
Got a little salt in them drawers now.
I say, I have been made a fool of.
Why is he German, Ryan?
I don't know.
German. Wasn't he like picked up in the Bahamas or something?
Yes. Yeah, so he's still English. He's still a dandy. I have been taken a fool of.
There you go. Ryan's over here making him German every time he talks. I'm like, where the fuck did Germany come into this?
My blood is absolutely boiling. I'm so angry.
That would be me, just FYI. That would be me. I'd be like, oh, I'm so angry.
No, I'd be more like Blackbeard and be like, burn it down, burn it to ashes.
See, I connect with Captain Steed very much. I can see myself in him. No, I'm not gonna go out there and do piracy unless I have to. Like then I'm gonna play unfair. I'm just gonna be like, yo, gun in face. Give me that, and I'll trade you your life. That would be me. That would be a horrible pirate. Horrible pirate. Lots of booty, though. Lots of booty.
Oh, booty everywhere.
Which one of the comments said earlier, booty, 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 rocking everywhere. Sorry, continue with your
no, you're fine. But you're absolutely right. Steed finally got some balls and was like, hey, give me all your provisions. Yeah. I need this money. I need all this. I need all these provisions to get where I got to go.
Okay.
And this gave him that old time feeling. He had gotten raiding ships with Blackbeard. So he completely abandoned his original plans to go to St. Thomas and began committing numerous acts of piracy off the coast of the Carolinas. So he just, like I said, he throws caution to the wind, whole hog. This is what I'm doing now. Fuck Blackbeard. Fuck everybody else. I am a pirate. I said, however, his decision to return to the lifestyle caught up with him. A few months later, on September the 27th, 1718, when pirate hunter Colonel William Rhett, dispatched by the governor of South Carolina, caught up to Steed and his crew in the mouth of the Cape Fear River. Steed attempted to get away and ran. He attempted to get away from Captain Rhett, but he ran aground and engaged in battle with the pirate hunters. Steed, not one to be taken easily, attempted to ignite the ship's gunpowder store. However, he was talked down and listened to reason, eventually surrendering, and was taken to Charleston to stand trial, where he and his crew were convicted of piracy. But Steed tried begging for a stay of execution, because Steed was very moneyed, and Steed knew people, and so he was writing people and trying to get people to come to his aid. But people were like, sorry, Steed, you actually did it. I can't help you out.
Yeah, he grew some balls, but they were made out of marshmallows. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
he gets arrested. Please help me. Oh.
He grew some balls and gets arrested, and he's just like writing a letter. Dearest Sugar Papa, I am jailed in Charleston.
My dear, sweetest friend, please help me. Yeah, he's writing everybody.
By the way, somebody said his blood boiled, which makes him salted caramel now.
Jesus Christ.
Very good. I had that same joke. I just didn't say it.
So it was to no avail. The gentleman pirate was hung in Charleston and White Point Gardens on December the 10th, 1718. And not only was he hung, but he and his crew were buried in the mud flats and unmarked graves off of the southern tip of the gardens. So if you go there, you can still go there today. And if you go to the very end of the Battery in Charleston, that little park at the very end is where Stede Bonnet and all the pirates were hung. Now, I didn't find this in my notes when I was looking, but I took a tour when I was in Charleston. And they said that they actually left the pirates hanging from the trees at the end of White Point Gardens for several months as a warning for pirates not to come back into Charleston before they buried them.
I bet that sugar got flies.
Yeah. But while Steve was being chased down and hung, Blackbeard and the remainder of his crew were living it up in Bath. They had all received royal pardons and were treated like celebrities in the colony, particularly Blackbeard himself. Everyone wanted to hold court with him and ask him about his many adventures. They were dazzled by his stories of treasure and traveled to places that they only had read about. Rich planners would invite him to their parties. just so people could listen to him spin a yarn. It got to be so frequent that Blackbeard himself boasted, there wasn't a house in North Carolina that would not invite me to dinner. And he was absolutely right. But between all of the dinners and parties, Blackbeard was able to find a wife and married a rich planter's daughter in a ceremony officiated by Governor Eden himself. He had ingratiated himself with high society and seemed to be settling down with his new bride. But Blackbeard's true mistress continued to call to him. He could not ignore the siren song that was the sea. What's up, Blake?
No. I'm just like married to. I mean, it's shitty. Like Captain Sugar Britches over here gets, goes to jail and all that stuff and gets hung, and then Blackbeard's like, oh yeah, just come on over to my house and I'll marry you. Don't worry. You got rich planter's daughter. Yeah, absolutely, cool. Yeah, great. Just.
Well, I mean, he got his pardon and he quit pirating.
I guess.
He was
allegedly.
For a little bit, he quit pirating. And Steed went whole hog into it and went out and started pirating left and right. So, I mean, and it was only a matter of time before he was going to get caught because, let's be honest, he wasn't the greatest pirate to begin with, and Blackbeard was way more cunning and dashing than he was, and he was gonna hang.
With all of Ryan's voices and everything like that, Blackbeard probably actually sounded like, and there I was, out in sea. That's probably how
actually, what is funny is people think that he may have actually come from a very wealthy family because there's evidence to suggest that he knew how to read and he knew how to write, and whenever he would, and why he was so easily able to ingratiate himself with the upper crust and high society in North Carolina, because he was an educated man from an educated family, but people don't really know who his parents were or where he was educated. So
he was more eloquent than people realized he was.
So he may have actually sounded more like Steed, more, just with the image of being like rough and tumble, but he could have sounded more like prim and proper. We don't know.
It's just this image here, right here, and it's just like, oh yeah, I'm come to take over.
Avast ye swabs.
That's not the voice that came out of that man. Y'all shut up.
Shelly's fantasizing right now. It's all good. It's all good.
Well, Blackbeard could stand it no longer. He and his men needed to return to the sea. So with Governor Eden's blessing, Blackbeard got a new ship and named it the Adventure. That's not confusing. And was granted official documents to sail to St. Thomas as a trade vessel. Blackbeard was now seaworthy again and set out immediately for the ocean. But it wasn't long before Blackbeard was up to his old tricks. He never sailed for St. Thomas and instead headed to Bermuda. And on his way to Bermuda, Blackbeard came across 2 French ships full of sugar and cocoa heading towards Martinique. Blackbeard quickly captured both and put all of the French crew on one ship and let them go, taking the other ship with all the goods back to North Carolina.
I've come across the sugar and cocoa in the same.
I was going to say, is this another round of Captain Dandy?
So he took the ship and he docked it in Ocracoke Inlet. He reported his plunder to Governor Eden, but lied, saying he had found the ship abandoned at sea. He said he had salvaged it, and therefore he salvaged the goods aboard as well. So he and Governor Eden split the bounty on the ship, making a considerable amount and money for both men.
So your fucking governor is now indirectly
involved
with piracy.
Right. And North Carolina seemed to be pretty friendly to pirates at the time. Pirates kind of knew that, we could go into North Carolina and we can sell our loot and kind of have safe haven for a little bit because no one's going to bother us there because the governor's pretty friendly, it seems like, to pirates.
Yeah.
Well, he kind of had to be because it would take a long time for him to get any assistance. So.
Right. Because even with Charleston having little assistance, North Carolina had way less assistance than Charleston because Charleston was a bustling metropolis. Yeah. But Bath at the time, and you can still go to Bath today, was just this small sea town, and that was where the governor and everybody lived because none of the urban centers had been established in North Carolina yet. So that's where all the pirates went to and hung out with Governor Eden. And if he's getting all these extra goods and he's getting all this money, so why would he crack down on piracy?
Yeah, they're lining his pockets.
Right, exactly. So, but Blackbeard was stressed that someone may come into Ocracoke Inlet that had knowledge of the ship or knowledge of his foray back into piracy. So he again lied to Governor Eden, telling him that the French ship was leaky and could sink and clog the waterway. So Governor Eden told Blackbeard to take the vessel out into the river and burn it. The pirate did as he was asked and burned his ship the ship to cinders, officially getting rid of the evidence. So it's very mafia-like. Like, yeah, it's leaky. You should totally get rid of the evidence. Oh, should I? What should I do? You should set it on fire so no one knows that it's out there. Oh, okay, I'll go do that. It's a very mafia.
Because you know for a damn fact that Eden wasn't just completely blind to what the hell happened.
God, no, he was not. Absolutely.
He wasn't like, oh yeah, I totally believe that ship was just left abandoned. With all of this nice, cocoa and sugar Splenda.
He's like, you got chocolate and sugar? Hey, man, bring it on in here.
Hell yeah, me too, man. Bring it on in.
So now, after the ship burned, Blackbeard returned to his favorite hideout on the southern tip of Ocracoke Island, where Blackbeard could monitor ships coming in and out of North Carolina, and his ship was waiting to rob traders or let them pass. He did a little bit of both. Sometimes he'd let them come through, sometimes he wouldn't. If he saw something he liked, he'd go and take it. But one day, a ship approached that was different from the others. Around the latter part of September 1718, Blackbeard's lookout spotted a pirate ship headed towards the inlet. Blackbeard sailed out to meet whoever it was, and soon recognized the captain as Charles Vane, an influential pirate that refused the king's pardon, and who had been wreaking havoc on South Carolina. With him was his quartermaster, Calico Jack Rackham, who would become a notorious pirate in his own right later on. So Blackbeard invited them back to his island, and the pirates partied for about a month straight, only ending when Captain Vane left for New York in late October.
Damn.
These dudes know how to have a good time.
Holy shit, I can only survive like one night with Shelly.
I mean, but could you imagine partying with these hard-drinking pirates for a month straight? The hangover would never fucking end.
No, I could not imagine partying with Shelly for that long. Like, Jesus.
A few days, you ready for a nap?
Few days, few hours, my friend. She gonna drink you under. Never mind.
Yeah.
She gonna drink you all the way to hell where she belongs. Damn it.
Oh yeah, where she came from.
How did I get in this boat? Come on, now.
Because he described you to a T just now. Party for a month and hung out and all that. Yeah.
Although the pirates had a great time, their month-long party did not go unnoticed. Because while North Carolina may have been friendly to pirates, Virginia was not so friendly to pirates. The governor of Virginia, Alexander Spotswood, heard all about the blowout and was extremely worried about there being pirates directly to his south. They could disrupt Virginia's trade routes and supply lines, and he absolutely hated pirates and wanted them eradicated. Particularly Blackbeard, because he carried so much name recognition. He had to figure out how to catch him, and had a tremendous stroke of luck. Blackbeard's former quartermaster, William Howard, had been spotted in Virginia, so Spotswood had him arrested and tried on the grounds of committing piracy. During the trial, Spotswood learned all about the crimes the pirates had committed and all about Blackbeard the man and his various hideouts. With all of this info on public record in Virginia, Spotswood decided it was time to strike. In his eyes, pardon be damned. Blackbeard was still committing acts of piracy and was a danger to the sovereignty of Virginia, so he moved to remove the threat. So Governor Spotswood tasked Lieutenant Robert Maynard to take 2 Royal Navy ships named the Jane and the Ranger down to North Carolina and rid the world of Blackbeard once and for all. As the raiding party approached Ocracoke Island on November the 21st, 1718, they surprisingly encountered little resistance. That was until Blackbeard realized that they were coming. Blackbeard had been caught by surprise. Most of his men were in Bath hanging out about town. So Blackbeard and the 18 men that he still had with him had been lounging around and having a lazy day on the island. They didn't think anyone knew their whereabouts, let alone the Royal Navy. So when the royal sloops showed up on his doorstep, Blackbeard sprang into action and gathered his crew. They boarded the Adventure and turned their starboard guns towards their enemy and began sailing into the channel. In hopes that Blackbeard's master navigating would cause the pursuers to run aground on a sandbar that was hiding just under the water's surface. As Blackbeard maneuvered his ship through the treacherous waterways, he hollered at Maynard, "Damn you villains, who are ye?" Maynard responded, "You can see by our colors we are not pirates." Blackbeard roared back, "Then come aboard so I may see who ye are." Maynard responded, "I cannot spare my boat, but I will board you as soon as I can with my sloop."
Get the hell out of here.
Blackbeard yelled back, "Damnation seize me soul if I give ye any quarter, or take any from ye." Maynard yelled to the pirate, "I expect no quarter from you, nor shall I give any."
Next time, can we have a puppet show with these voices?
With that exchange, both knew one of them would not be making it home that day.
Tell me the voices again, Ryan. What did he say?
Damnation seize me soul if I give ye any quarter or take any from ye. I expect no quarter from you, nor shall I give any.
Welcome to a fucking live show, people. Never know what you're going to get with us when you're watching live.
No, you don't.
Now, this one, we turned in to actually, learn something. And what the hell is this shit? Okay, go ahead.
So with that exchange, both men knew that one of them was not going to be making it home that day. This was going to be a fight to the death. Blackbeard did not hesitate to start the fight. He immediately broadsided Maynard's ship with grape shot, which consisted of pieces of lead and rusty old nails, instantly killing half of Maynard's crew and immobilizing the Jane. However, in the confusion, the Ranger also ran aground. And the concussion from Blackbeard's cannons caused the Adventure to also hit a sandbar and run aground. So like when he shot it, it pushed them across the water into a sandbar. Both the Adventure and the Ranger were stuck. But Blackbeard quickly got his ship free and began to turn in an attempt to broadside the Ranger once more. But in the nick of time, Maynard got his ship free and headed directly for the Adventure. Blackbeard saw the Ranger coming for him and told his men to prepare to board the enemy ship. They were going to finish this like men. As the two ships slammed into each other, Blackbeard called to his men, "Board her and cut them to pieces." The pirates threw grenades and smoke bombs onto the deck of the Ranger and boarded the royal ship. They didn't know it yet, but they had been lured into a trap. Maynard had been keeping most of his crew below deck and called for them as soon as the pirates took the bait. Blackbeard and his men were instantly outnumbered. They knew this was the end, but they were going to go down swinging, and began to fight with an intensity matched by no man. Blackbeard began to fight his way through the crowd, inching closer and closer to Maynard, swinging his cutlass and cutting down foes that dare step in his path, all the while pulling pistols from his bandolier and discharging them into royal sailors. And they said that these pistols were like one shot, so he's like taking pistols one at a time and shooting them and like discarding these pistols. I mean, it's like a movie. Like when you think of a pirate fight in a movie, this is what you're picturing.
Right.
Soon the dreaded pirate was face to face with the lieutenant in a Mexican standoff that would make Tarantino blush. Both men drew their pistols and fired at each other. Blackbeard missed, but Maynard did not. It was a direct hit, but still the gun blast did nothing to stop the pirate. As if he were a man possessed, the angry Blackbeard continued to come for Maynard. Maynard was out of options and did the only thing he could do. He drew his sword and engaged Blackbeard in hand-to-hand combat. The two clashed iron, but Maynard saw an opening and thrust his blade into Blackbeard, but only hit Blackbeard's cartridge box, which bent Maynard's sword, allowing Blackbeard to swing his cutlass so hard that he struck Maynard's sword and broke it off at the hilt.
Oh, shit.
The force threw Maynard to the deck, where he pulled and cocked another pistol, and again shot Blackbeard at point-blank range. But still, it didn't stop him. It only angered the pirate more. Blackbeard continued to advance on Maynard, who was on his back and astonished that he hadn't been able to stop his rival. Victory was in sight for Blackbeard, as he lifted his cutlass to strike the final blow. But just as he was about to send Maynard straight to hell, a naval officer snuck up behind Blackbeard and swung his sword, landing a nasty blow to the pirate's neck. Blood spurted from the gaping wound, but still Blackbeard continued to fight, swinging his cutlass at anything that moved, causing his heart to pump faster and more blood to shoot out of his neck. Maynard, having been saved from certain death, again took his chance and shot Blackbeard one more time. However, Blackbeard continued to fight, not falling until the blood loss was too great, and the most notorious pirate in the world fell dead right where he stood.
God dang.
Along with their captain, 10 of Blackbeard's crew perished, while others surrendered and several jumped overboard to avoid capture. But at the end of the day, Captain Maynard and the Royal Navy were victorious. And to prove their victory, they decapitated Blackbeard and hung his head from the bowsprit, which I believe is like that on the very end of the boat.
Yeah,
the little like piece of wood.
Yeah.
As a warning to other pirates, lest they suffer the same fate as Blackbeard, the most famous pirate who had ever lived. And that's the story of Blackbeard.
Avast me, hearties.
Avast me, mateys. What'd y'all think? Y'all think of Blackbeard?
Motherfucker was like made of steel at the end. Jesus.
Right.
Like,
I wonder too, though, because you have to think about the time whenever, these are flintlock pistols, and could they have been, like, when they shot him, did they maybe misfire? Maybe he didn't actually shoot Blackbeard, or maybe because of the heavy clothing that Blackbeard was wearing and how fast those bullets were going, because they were just little musket balls, it could have provided some sort of shield for Blackbeard.
It's like throwing a spitwad at somebody. Right. Yeah, just...
Right. But he was fierce, man. And it's pretty interesting, like I said, when you start going into it and you realize that he was the most feared pirate. However, a lot of it was just bravado and bluster. It was like, my reputation precedes me. Now give me what I want.
Yeah.
That's right. He had his bluff in, so he didn't really actually have to fight, because he had enough, talk about him already that, like you said, his reputation preceded him. Nobody wanted to fight him, so they'd have heard stories of fighting him. So therefore he didn't have to fight. So,
right. But when he did fight, boy, did he go down swinging.
Yeah, that's no kidding.
Okay. Y'all keep talking. I gotta grab something 1 second. I'll be back.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, he had already, even though he didn't necessarily have to fight during his piracy career, he had kind of already established himself as a fierce fighter when he was a privateer, and
right.
So when he ended up getting into a fight at the very end, all those skills came back to him, and he he really went down. What's up, Blake?
Act out another scene, my friend. Got something for you.
Oh God, what's he got?
You got to act out another scene.
He needs words.
Oh,
Captain Sugar Britches and Blackbeard.
He's got Lego men.
He needs some voices, right?
Hello there. Yar, hello. Can you tell me where the next Buc-ee's is? That away. Jesus Christ.
I so quit this podcast.
No, you don't. No, you don't. God. I just kept seeing him across the room. I was like, damn, I should go grab some Lego men real quick.
Man, but what do y'all think of Blackbeard the man and his whole story?
He's an intimidating motherfucker, I ain't gonna lie. I mean, if I saw somebody walking up with me with a big old freaking sword and about 6 pistols hanging in his belt and smoke coming out of his ears or beard or whatever
I'd
it was.
be like, Daddy.
Jesus Christ.
Well, we know you would, Shelley. It's interesting to hear, because I mean, like, I didn't grow up, quote unquote, on Blackbeard stories and all that stuff just from being in the East Texas area. It's just, being on the Eastern Shore or the Western Shore, whatever, the coastlines, you're going to get more of your piracy stories in your history classes, stuff like that. We didn't get a whole lot of that here in East Texas. So, but I have heard a couple of like pieces of the legend, pieces of the lore or not. So it's kind of interesting to hear the actual story with some of those pieces of this big intimidating figure. And being able to kind of correlate that, yeah, he was a pretty intimidating motherfucker, you know.
Yeah, he was. So, I mean, he was something else, and just that whole world that he inhabited. You know, it's literally, and I figured Shelley like this. It's like the mafia on ships. I mean, that's pretty much what it is. It's, you know, let me find some sort of grift in order to make as much money as I possibly can. Let me have this politician in my back pocket, and let me, you know, get these goods and move these illicit goods as fast as I possibly can. It's really interesting,
and they all have fun names too.
And they do, exactly. They all have fun names, like Jack Rackham. He would become Calico Jack. Blackbeard. You have the Dread Pirate Bartholomew Roberts. You have like all these other people who have all these crazy nicknames. Yeah, so it's very mafia-esque. But I did use. I want to shout out the book that I did use for this. It's called Blackbeard the Pirate, and it's by a Robert E. Lee, and it's a reprisal of his life and times. And they actually go into. Most of the book is about Blackbeard, but there's probably a third of the book that covers the ramifications of what his death meant to the piracy world, and also what it meant for Governor Spotswood to kind of invade Governor Eden's territory just because he felt like it. Yeah. So if you ever want to go check that out, go read that book. It's very, very interesting. But
now one of the questions in the comments is, what about the story of his ghost? Did you do anything on that?
Well, there's several stories about him being seen in like Bath, North Carolina. There are several places where he supposedly lived, where people claim to see Blackbeard's ghost.
He's also alleged to be seen.
Yeah, like it's one of those things where it's like more so legend, because you don't know what Blackbeard actually looked like. We have the paintings, you know, and like these etchings.
Right. Yeah.
So it could be somebody completely different, but you know, people talk about these different areas where Blackbeard is allegedly supposed to be haunted. Now, the legend I did hear growing up when I was a kid was whenever they cut Blackbeard's head off, they threw his body into the water, and his body swam around the ship 3 times before it sank to the bottom of the ocean. I did grow up hearing that part. But you know, there are like people claim to see Blackbeard's ghost on Ocracoke, and they actually did find the wreck of the Queen Anne's Revenge in about 1996 or 1997. They were looking for it for the longest time, and they did find it. So they do know that he's not just a story. He did exist. The Queen Anne's Revenge.
Didn't they pull 3 guns or 3 cannons?
I think so.
Was
something
it 3
like that.
cannons,
a few cannons out of there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he did exist, and it was exactly, I mean, even though it took them a while to find it, it was in the general area where they knew from, you know, the accounts where he sank it. Yeah. So, man, what a story, and what a guy, you know, and there's a reason why you have so many stories and legends, and like he shows up in Pirates of the Caribbean, and if you go to Myrtle Beach, or if you go to Eastern North Carolina, there's a lot of like Blackbeard themed like mini golfs and Blackbeard themed, you know, like little pirate shops and stuff. So he's a lot of fun.
That looks more like Shelley's type of man right there.
Hell yeah.
What actor is that? I know that actor, and I can't remember.
I don't remember his name.
Yeah, he's a pretty famous actor that played him in Pirates of the Caribbean, but yeah. So final thoughts on Blackbeard, guys.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, he's got a very interesting tale. He's got a very interesting story. Has led a very interesting life. Me, no, I couldn't do it. I'd be like Captain Steed, Captain Mr. Bonnet. Just call me Steed Bonnet, whatever his name was.
You know, I feel so bad for him, honestly. I really do, because he's just kind of he is like the ass of this whole situation. Or he kind of pays for Blackbeard's insolence.
He kind of does, yeah. You know, kind of shitty.
The governor of South Carolina never gets his hands on Blackbeard, and the whole reason Steed is captured is because he participated in the siege of Charleston, and he ends up paying for it, and Blackbeard never pays the piper, essentially, in South Carolina. So I do feel bad for Steed.
Yeah, and I like this story purely because, again, like you said, Ryan, you hit the nail on the head. It's very mafia-like, in the fact that, you know, really at that time he kind of is the godfather on the seas of the pirates. You didn't cross him. You better comply. And again, like Blackbeard, you always pin it on the patsy. Yes,
absolutely,
very mafia. So.
Absolutely. So yeah, it's mafia with ships. So I enjoyed this. Like I grew up learning about this. I grew up, you know, in this story, not knowing the intense detail that I went into in the podcast, but grew up hearing this story and really enjoyed the story. And we'll cover some more pirates in the future because Calico Jack has a pretty cool story of his own.
All right. Well, and with that, Blake, why don't you tell them everything they need to know?
All right. Well, first, I'm going to thank everybody in the comments for all the booty references tonight. That was fun to read and can keep myself composed all night long. So thank you for that. But anyways, well, remember that After Dark with EVP Season 1, Season 2 are all out on Paraflix Paranormal Plus. That is 16 episodes with never before seen evidence and special guest interviews that we have not had on the podcast before. So y'all should go check that out. Paraflix Paranormal Plus is available on Amazon Fire, Roku TV, Apple TV, iOS, and Google Play. You want to make sure you use our link to sign up, which we posted to our Facebook page tomorrow via our link tree, and it's also in the show notes for you audio listeners. Use our code AFTERDARK25 for 25% off your annual subscription. Like we said, that'll be on our Facebook tomorrow, and within that link tree link, you will also find every social media channel. We are on our online merchandise store. Don't forget, we have some things on sale up there. The Words Are Hard t-shirt. It's got to be my favorite one. But anyways, it's also going to have our public investigations. We do currently have tickets for sale. So if you want to go on a public investigation with us, go check out our Eventbrite page.
My birthday.
Actually, we just sold out on that one.
Oh, never mind.
Did we really?
Come.
Okay.
Yep, we did. But we do have tickets still available for our Gregg County Historical Museum in August. I know that. And we've also got other events that are going to be coming out a little bit later on. So go subscribe to Eventbrite if you want to go to a public investigation with us. That link is also going to include our Patreon page. Our Patreon page is the fastest and easiest way you can directly help support the show and what we do. For just $5 a month, you will gain access to well over 375 additional Patreon exclusive videos. Your support from this goes directly to the show and all the ghostly adventures that we get to bring you week after week. This price will never change. And with that, you currently get our pre and post broadcasts, which are the 30 minutes before and the 30 minutes after this live broadcast. We're probably going to act like fucking idiots tonight. But anyways, we fight, debate, share very stupid personal stories that we probably shouldn't ever record. But anyways, it also is going to have our never before seen paranormal footage that is going to be unedited and raw from places such as Squirrel Cage Jail, Hill House Manor, and many others. So if you ever want to check those out, now is your chance. That is only on Patreon. And remember, we offer a 7-day free trial to our Patreon page so you can check it out prior to closing. If you'd like... Closing, purchasing, whatever.
You're doing
Listen, you're good.
I'm doing the closing. Yeah. Plus, I'm a realtor and had a closing yesterday. But anyways, if you'd like to spend some time with us, we will be at the McAllister Expo Center in McAllister, Oklahoma, July 5th through the 7th for Oklahoma Paracon. So we are posting that link up as well for tickets to our Facebook page, as well as Twitter X. I'm going to start calling it X because it's X now. I got to get out of that mentality of calling it Twitter. But anyways, you can click on that, get your tickets. We will be there all weekend long. We are going to be speaking there, as well as a shit ton of our friends who we've had on the podcast as well. So come hang out with us. If you can find the hotel we're in, might be a little extra bonus party in there for you. But anyways,
don't tell.
Yeah, if you know, shut up. But anyways, make sure you head over and follow us on all our social media channels. Search Everything Vaguely Paranormal and look for that green sound wave. And remember, to you audio listeners, you can catch us live on Facebook, YouTube, and X every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. These are all the ways that you can directly support Everything Vaguely Paranormal, but we also appreciate your love and support through those likes, comments, shares, views, and downloads. And remember, as always, any questions, comments, or stories you'd like to share with us, those can be submitted to us at the evppod@gmail.com. That is THEEVPPOD@gmail.com.
Like, share, and go and subscribe to that YouTube and Facebook page.
So
Absolutely.
thank you for tuning into another edition of Everything Vaguely Paranormal. I am Ryan Roberts. These are my partners in the paranormal, Mr. Blake Smith and Miss Shelley Pruitt. And we will see y'all next Tuesday.
Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.